we're simplifying energy access across Africa by doing very few key things. So the way, and I think Ernest and Mohamed would understand this very well. So typically solar companies would move teams from one location to another, in-house engineers. This is not sustainable, the way solar companies assess workforce today. And I know this, from being on the renewable energy side, managing talents across Africa, there's a big gap there. Plus the fact that we don't have enough workforce to meet the growing investment and demand we're seeing in the sector. So this is why we've created Instollar to do two key things. One, simplify energy access for the solar companies. So that way solar companies can easily take their solutions to the last mile, which is typically a challenge. And then at the same time, we're creating, we're growing that workforce by training solar installers. We're identifying the already qualified people. You say like aggregate the already qualified ones. And then we're training more installers and putting all of these people on a platform where solar companies can then assess on a freelancing basis. So that way for the solar company, their cost is kept at at a very affordable pricing. So we take off all that logistics cost of moving people from one location. So if an NS says, oh, I have mini grid or whatever solution happening in Sokoto, he doesn't have to move his team from Lagos to Sokoto, because on our platform, then we get him connected to qualified freelancers in that location. And also by doing that, it's easier for after-sales maintenance, because solar solutions have a bad perception today because of the after-sales maintenance. It's difficult for solar companies to repeatedly go to remote locations to maintain systems 6 months after, 1 year after those mini grids, for example, or even solar solutions have been implemented and installed. So this is where we come in, where we're creating the we're creating workforce all over rural location, peri-urban and urban cities, to make it easier for solar companies to reach the end user. And at the same time, we're creating jobs for the young people who also do not have work on the African continent.
That's a whole lot. But I think one of the key takeaways there is that your company also do follow through after service. So even if you need maintenance after there's been an installation.
Yeah, so we do the audits, we do the installation, and then the after sales as well. Absolutely. And all of this happens on a gigging basis. So it's freelancing. That way companies don't have a huge payroll burden, on their
absolutely, absolutely brilliant. I think, and I believe that there are people here who would be very much interested in things like that and who like, to want to be a part of that. And I forgot to add this also, not only Mr. Mohamed, who is supposed to be, he said he's supposed to be South Africa, but even Mr. Ernest himself is actually joining us all the way from Europe, right? He has a very busy schedule. He showed me his schedule for just this month, and it's packed up for just today, and it's very packed up. So I would like Mr. Ernest to just give us a brief introduction so we can move to Mr. Mohamed and begin the conversation.
Yes, so thank you everybody for having me. I'm currently in Serbia, where I'm attending a World Bank conference. So what does Bbox do? I mean, we are just like Chinwe said, we're a solar, solar renewable energy company. We are Pan-African. We have a presence in 10 African countries. Nigeria, obviously, has the biggest upside for the group as a whole. We've been going now for about 5 years, and of course, those 5 years seem like it's been really condensed, and the market has moved significantly. We focus a lot primarily on solar home systems in the rural community, and that's how we started, and that's how we commenced the business. However, we've progressively moved into productive use for small and medium enterprises, and we are currently discussing CNI, commerce and industry, and some more larger scale partnerships with some major large verticals. So the whole purpose of solar renewable energy is it affects everybody. It impacts every single dimension in the economy. It's an enabler. And we've been going great guns since we started in 2021. We are growing progressively across Nigeria now. We started in the southwest. We've covered most of southwest, south. We're moving into the north. Most solar energy companies, such as ourselves, will be also partaking in the DARES World Bank program, and that's going to help accelerate. And we'll talk some about that when we get into the Q&A. But Chinwe's proposition is very, very interesting to me. We obviously have technicians, we have agents, we have a whole infrastructure. Some of the technicians are in-house, some of the technicians are contracted. But of course, if there's a platform that enables us to reach into further parts of the country and keep our costs low, which is obviously we have to be a low-cost, lean organization, then it's something I'm particularly interested in. So already this seminar has added value to me. I have a couple of questions for Chinwe probably afterwards, but yeah, but that's essentially us. We're super excited to take on 2025 and to grow our footprint. We have over 50,000 customers that we've installed since then, and we'll look to double that in the next couple of years.
Absolutely brilliant. And if you've not been paying attention, and I'm just speaking generally, the future of electricity energy access in Africa is solar. The future of electricity energy access in Africa is solar. And so when you see CEOs and founders talking about this prospect and initiative, there is something that they see there, right? There's something that they see there, because the traditional national grid that we have is not sufficient enough. For the past 10 years or so, we've been maintaining the 5,000, 6,000 megawatt in the traditional. I'm talking about Nigeria now. And the same situation is similar in other parts of Africa. If we're talking about South Africa with the coast, talking about Kenya and Angola or whatever. So I feel like the future is renewable and the future is solar. And that's why we're having this particular webinar. And if you're talking about the future, you cannot talk about the future without talking about tech, right? So there's a convergence there. And I believe that we'll discuss more on that. Thank you so much, Ernest, for that. Mohamed, please, just a brief introduction so we can get into the question, so we don't waste our listeners' time. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Cyrus, and thanks for having me in this conversation. I am delighted to be here. As I told you, I'm supposed to be in South Africa today for the Future Energy Show, which I normally participate, but I didn't make it this year. So it's like a fortune for me to be here and at least share the work of my company and what we do. I am the CEO of Serra Power Renewable Energy. Serra Power, it's like a startup that was born out of wind energy. I was part of wind energy. Wind energy is a mini grid company that operates in Sierra Leone and Uganda. It has its headquarters in the UK and Italy, technical side in Italy. But they've been in operation for the past 5 years. I joined them in 2020. Before joining wind energy, I was actually a banker. I've been in banking, in the business of banking all through my life. For over 10, 13 years, I've been a banker. But I decided to join the renewable energy when a friend persuaded me that let's get into this field, and it's the way. So come and train me. I joined wind energy as the commercial manager. After 1 year, my friend left. Then I took up as a country manager. So I was in charge of operations. And interestingly, Winch was born. Winch came to Sierra Leone as a result of the RIP. RREP is Rural Renewable Energy Project, which was a project funded by FCDO. And during the Ebola scourge, after the Ebola scourge, the government sees that having these mini grids would have helped out in the death of people, because since the hospitals would have been energized, and of course there would have been ways to store the vaccines, but there was no energy. So as a result of that, we have lots of debt. And FCDO decided to finance the rural energy project. And after that, they look for developers, people that specialize in mini grids for them to operate these mini grids. So their Winch Energy came in. But after 5 years of operation, the parent company in the UK went bad, and Winch was shut down in Sierra Leone. So we being Sierra Leonean and having the expertise, we see no need to go back. We decided to form Sierra Power Renewable Energy to complement the work of Winch Energy. So as a result of that, we are now here as mini grid operator. We've signed an agreement, an MOU with the Ministry of Energy Sierra Leone, and we are looking for projects to operate. In a brief, this is the introduction. I look forward to the discussion as we go ahead. But as I told you in the introductions, we are a rural energy. We operate in the rural sector. We don't have license to operate in the cities, except for now with Sierra Power. We've decided to do solar home systems, standalone systems, CNIs, and mini grids, which is our specialization. Thank you.
Wow, thank you so much for that. And that's Mohamed is from Sierra Leone, and he's just shared with us, what is going on in that space. And I love the fact that you said that you're targeted towards the rural communities, and that's where the 70% of energy deficit is in the rural community in Africa. So most of our grid concentrations are within the cities, and I believe that that's the same situation in Sierra Leone and another part of Africa. So that's, you guys are doing a great work over there. Let's just delve into the conversation. This is a webinar around tech and renewable and the convergence between them, particularly for businesses. And I would like to come to Mr. Ernest here, because I believe what you do particularly focus mainly on how to use tech to accelerate renewable penetration in Africa. You say you guys have been in 10 different African countries, and there's prospect for expansion and whatnot. My question would be like, what is the role of technology, in the future of the renewable space? What is the role of technology as it stands today?
Well, I mean, I think we're talking about renewable energy, but I mean, technology permeates every single vertical, right? So it's not surprising that technology is a major enabler and also accelerator for adoption in solar, just as it is in anything else, to be quite honest. So, and I'll talk about it through, if I like, the journey of our own business and a day in the operations of Bbox Nigeria and Bbox Group. So, as you know, we deploy solar home systems into rural and peri-urban areas. These systems are battery, solar panels, and as well as telemetry, IoT enabled, so that we can not only deploy but also verify the performance of the battery. So that's one area. So we can also monitor performance, and from that, through our IoT and our own, we have a system, a platform that we've developed, Pulse. It's like top-notch, grade A, and from that we can farm various data and performance metrics from the unit. So if we have issues in channel or in following an installation, we're able to remotely manage that. Imagine if you had to deploy people every single time there was an issue with 40,000, 50,000 customers. So technology is really key in that aspect that Chinwe spoke about, that you spoke about, which is after sales service. It's really fundamental. So that's one aspect. Another aspect of technology, and this is a major part, is Mohamed has focused on, it focuses on rural, if you like, sector. So do we. And one of the characteristics of when you're selling to the rural community is lack of affordability. And so how do we address lack of affordability? You know, it's not everybody that can buy a solar home system with a fan and a TV, which we provide, and a radio, and various other components. These are slightly out of their price bracket. While some customers can pay upfront, a lot can't. So what do? We enable them to pay in installments. But how do you do that? How do you you can't just deploy it somewhere. It could be 500 miles away from the shop or whatever. And so we have pay as you go technology, which enables the customer to pay in installments, but at the same time, if there are issues around payments, we can monitor, and we can, and this is not something that you want to talk about a lot, but if needed, and you have defaulting customers, and because we're running a business here, we're not a charity. If you have defaulting customers, you need to first of all reach out to them, encourage them to pay, etc. Do all the normal customer service outreach. And if you're finding that that's not happening, then we have the power to switch off the
when you say the pay as you go, and I don't want to ask a follow-up question, but I'm tempted to ask: is it an app? Is it a website? What kind of platform?
Yeah, well, no, we have a proprietary developed application where each customer has an account, and as they're making their payments, that payment is reflecting in their account, and as long as the payment is on time and within the boundaries that we set, the parameters for payment is set, then they continue to receive. People say continue to receive light, but we don't control the light. Nobody owns the sun, but it's become sort of common language. Now, what happens is we're able to switch off the machine. I mean, it's unfortunate, but we can do it remotely, and as soon as the payment's made, it automatically restarts the battery, and then they can continue to utilize that. So this is all technology, all in-house within Bbox, and other companies have this as well, to use that to manage their customers. The other thing is really it's really about the sensors that we have as well, that enables us to track the performance and also to gather data, because it's very important to understand the usage patterns of each of our customers, when the peak load is, what they're typically using the power for. So for instance, are they using it for entertainment? Are they using it for recreational activities? Is it for productive use? Because productive use could be anything. It could be selling tomatoes. It's productive use because you're making money from that. So there's a whole variety. I mean, if I moved into the CNI space and into the productive use, I can talk about more there. So for instance, but I don't want to hug the limelight here, but you've got right now. So I've had 25 years in telecoms. I'm really a telecoms guy. I made most of my career, and there's an intersection right now which everybody can attest to, which is the telecoms companies are experiencing massive costs in running the telecoms towers. The biggest cost of running the telco is OPEX of diesel. So a lot of these telecom towers are now being solarized. But when that's been done, the payment is also used with smart meters. And so these smart meters manage the uptime and downtime of the solar energy to provide a telecom tower enough power that it needs to emit airtime. And a telecoms tower it has no downtime. It cannot have downtime. Otherwise, we wouldn't even be talking, right? So the smart metering enables the technology to switch between solar and generator, because no matter what you say, solar is not the panacea of every single problem. You cannot run a business on solar, because once the sun goes down and your batteries then become depleted, you need backup, right? So just not as much as if it was only gen. So solar is a gen set replacement strategy. So the smart metering enables you to switch between when the battery is depleted, and then it switches on the gen. So there's so much more to this, and I'm sure Mohamed can talk more about this as well. But I mean, there's a lot more.
Yeah, so much, and I really love the fact that you mentioned the B2B side of it, like, and you brought in the experience of telecom, and I know you've been in telcos industry for a long time with T-Mobile and on big names like that, and it's one of those things that people don't often look at, that solar services goes beyond just like powering your home, powering your individual businesses. Like we're talking about a whole industry here, a whole value chain of economic activities going on, and solar has a place to go to play in it. And the fact that you mentioned the aspect of monitoring usage, auditing, as well as pay as you go services that does not require human confrontation. You know, I think it would be very difficult to have a system in place of pay as you go. You have to go meet the person in their house. You can do all of these things on just your app. This is technology we're talking about here. I really love that insight there. I really love that insight. But let's talk a little bit about the barriers, because we can talk about, how wonderful technology is, how amazing it is to drive, and facilitate the services. But there are some barriers. There's some things, probably regulatory barriers, infrastructural barriers, or even within the sector itself. Ms. Chinwe, I don't know if you want to come in here. Let's talk a little bit about the barriers. What are the barriers to the future of renewable energy and technology integration in Africa?
Sorry, was that question for me or for Mohamed?
No, it's for you. It's definitely
for you. Me. Okay, some of the barriers, right? I mean, there are so many barriers, right? I mean, even when we look at in the rural community, so the IoT and the PEGO devices Ernest was talking about, right? I think, sorry, 1 second. Blessing, come inside. Please help me turn off this AC. It's making noise. Turn off this AC, please. Okay, so sorry about that. Come this way. For the remote communities, right? They need to, yeah, that's better. That was so noisy. Sorry about that. The air conditioning in my office is making a lot of noise. Okay, yeah, so the IoT devices Ernest made reference to, I think it's a beautiful technology, right? Especially for people in the rural communities to be able to pay small, like they say it in the local parlance. But sometimes, we have, because they need to, I mean, I don't know how the Bbox technology works, but we work very closely with Bbox, right? And the Bbox freezers are embedded with these PEGO devices. So usually we sometimes have difficulties when our installers are in a rural community waiting for the activation code. Right. So then again, these codes have to be sent across telecom network, right? It's either going to be sent through it. And in the some remote locations, sometimes, with the network, there is a bit of a downtime challenge there. So I think generally as a country, our infrastructure, right, the government needs to do a lot more to make sure that we even have the basic infrastructure to support all of this beautiful innovation companies are coming up with, right? Also, some of the challenges are also with the skill gap, right? Which is one of the things we're also doing. If we look at, so thankfully, I think Africa, in spite of our challenges, we also have some benefits. We have the power of the sun, and we also are beginning to attract a lot of investment from the global north as well. So solar is gaining attention, clean energy, climate, whatever, term you want to call it, there's a lot of money coming in. But when we look at the gap, when we look at the number of manpower, the number of qualified manpower we need, right? I think I've read some reports and articles that say clean jobs can create about 5 million jobs within Africa, by 2030. We really don't have those people. So that's a gap. And that was why I was saying that the perception of solar has been affected over time by that skill gap. So if I think now people are beginning to accept solar. 10 years ago, when I got into the solar space, was it 10 or even 12 years ago? 2010 was when I got into. So that's about 15 years ago. People did not even trust solar panels. They didn't trust it at all, right? And a lot of the products that came in were also from China, substandard. Now we're beginning to even see more premium products coming from China. But then it was really, really bad. So even when we came into the market, I used to work for Schneider Electric at the time, we had premium products, but people didn't trust. The perception of solar was really bad. Part of this perception was created by the lack of competent workforce. Because the closest you had was an electrician who could do house wiring, a local electrician who knew how to do house wiring, and then they thought they were solar experts. So there was a lot of wrong installations, plus this whole challenge with continuous maintenance, because a Bbox, who I don't know where they are, where your head office is located. So let me imagine you're located in Lagos, right, in a beautiful VI or a beautiful Ikoyi, and then if you install the system in a faraway community in Zamfara, the logistics of going on a quarterly basis or biannual basis to maintain that system would be a difficulty. There is no doubt about that, right? And so that skill gap, it's also a challenge. I think another challenge where government needs to also help us is with the policy and the regulation. Sometimes I feel this whole national grid it sounds like a myth when they say, oh, it has come. Why are we, we seem to be tying all our power needs to the grid. And if you look at the number of people we have in Nigeria, to tie our power needs to a 4,000 megawatt, installation that was done donkey years ago, it's not. So I think the policy and the regulation about solar power, about the generation of solar power. Why can I not generate solar in my home and maybe share next door to my neighbor or something like that? Like we see, things like that happening even in Europe, where people even, lease out their roof space for solar installation just to be able to generate the amount of solar that we need. So there are so many, and then of course high cost as well. Solar is expensive. That's the truth. The technology, I mean, Ernest was telling us about the pay-go devices, the IoT. There are so many expense. It is an expensive technology. Thankfully, we're also seeing all of these pay-go solutions coming in as well in the sector. So yeah, so those are some of the.
I think you listed them in order. You really did a justice to the question. There's the issue of the infrastructural deficit, the issue of the human expertise, even the tech we are talking about. Absolutely, if you don't have the human manpower there to use the tech, to create the tech, to facilitate the tech, there's nothing you can do. And so the human gap will always be present. And there's also the issue, like you said, regulatory. I see Ernest wants to respond to that just in a minute so we can move on. So please go ahead.
Yes. I like Chinwe. I really wish we were on a panel face to face, but I liked a lot of the things you said, but I just want to just contribute to a few of the points you've made. So very quickly, so the issue about network and code, we all suffer it from time to time, and which is why I'm a strong proponent of telecommunications, obviously given my background, and solar. So there's an intersection between them. But good times are coming because, as you've seen, they've got MVNOs which are being launched, and also MTN and Airtel have just signed an agreement I was reading, which is for network sharing. So that's going to enhance the performance of the network. So that's that first point I want to talk about. I totally agree with you with the skills gaps and that you're talking about, and you're spot on there. But I tell you this, Chinwe, it's not only a Nigerian problem. There's a massive problem in the United States. It's so nascent. In the United Kingdom, it's a big issue. So we should talk. And then secondly, and thirdly, and finally, on policy and regulation, you're 100% correct. The grid is not sufficient. However, I have to say that the government under our current president has done something phenomenal, which is there's a $750 million DARES program, which is not only going to help with the proliferation of solar, but it's also going to support the affordability of it. And recently, on the 25th of March, there's a new policy coming in for the production of solar panels in Nigeria. So basically, it looks like they're going to encourage panel production. That will bring down the cost significantly in our country. So I just wanted to give those contributions.
And I think that's a very wider conversation, because I saw the debate, I think it was yesterday, when people were talking about banning importation.
Yes.
Things. Yeah, so it's in Nigeria, but some people will still say that the government is a bit reactive to the market instead of proactive in terms of catching up to the trend or setting up the pace in terms of regulation. But like I said, it's a bigger conversation.
The market always leads, and the government always come with the policy. It's how it is. It's how it should be. The key thing is how quickly does it come.
Absolutely. Mohamed, you mentioned that you're focused mainly on rural areas, and like I said, that is where the most of energy access is needed. Whether you're looking at the IEA report, you're looking at other reports across Africa in terms of electricity access, electricity penetration, and other articles around that, what you will see is that the rural community, the rural businesses pay more in terms of energy cost compared to their urban counterpart, because of the difficulties and the challenges that goes in bringing electricity to them and bringing these services to them. My question would be, how can small businesses, you work with small businesses, how can they leverage on the technology in terms of getting this service, renewable service? How can they leverage on it, from your perspective?
Thank you, Cyrus. As you said, I have my operations in the rural sector, and I would like to base my examples in the scenario. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you were
breaking up, but go ahead.
Okay. How small businesses can leverage digital platform? There are many ways small businesses can leverage digital platform, because we sitting in the city and doing business in the provinces, it's quite exhausting had it not been the introduction of these digital platforms. Yeah, like Ernest was saying, they use pay-as-you-go. For them that are doing SHS, solar home systems, they leverage more on pay-as-you-go systems. And these systems make sure you get your money on time. Otherwise, just imagine I am in the city having to collect money 200 or 300 miles off in the provinces. And these are difficult areas to go. Even if you are using the most robust vehicle to approach those villages, you find it difficulties. Either the road is muddy during the rains, and during the dries, you have challenges of hilly roads and bumpy drives. So collection would have been a trouble if there were no digital form of digital ways to leverage these platforms. Yeah. For us that are in the mini-grid space, we use smart meters. And with smart meters, we don't have to go to the village to get access to our money. No, we can just, what we did was, before my joining the industry, there was like, we established agents in each village, in each site we established. We have an agent that is selling credit or selling data to the people for them to access energy, just like the pay-as-you-go system. So we have agents that were distributed right across the country. But what I did was to get the mobile networks so that we can use mobile money to get for the people in the village to buy their credits, to top up their meters. And that way have been very, very effective. And it saved us transportations, and it saved us the traveling cost and whatsoever that involves in getting to the people.
Yeah,
and besides,
just a minute. Just a minute. By mobile money, you mean like credit? You mean like charge card, like what we said in Nigeria?
No, the system was integrated between the mobile money systems and our meter system, our metering system. So if you have mobile money on your wallet, you can use it to buy credit for your meter. Then we can monitor directly in the city, and we will know who is using more energy and the towns that are using less energy. All this we are done through remote sensor. And the system we deployed in those villages are called RPUs, remote power units. And these units gave us access to monitor them remotely, sitting from the city here in Freetown. Yeah, we can monitor, and we know the usage, and we know what to do exactly. And also, digital platform can help us leverage predictive maintenance. We will know exactly the site that is having issues, because we can monitor using dashboards. Yeah, these dashboards can be integrated either directly from the metering company, or we can use our private dashboard to monitor the whole system. We can sit here and see that, okay, in this village, there is a panel problem. We can go and fix it. In this village, there is a network problem. So the technicians, we have technicians that are seated very close to the villages. We deploy each technician is covering like 5 villages. Each technician is having a catchment, and that technician will spring no sooner there is a problem. And for them to access these areas is very difficult to go. So we gave them bikes, because using commercial bikes, it's a bit difficult considering the accidents, and they will not take you alone. So for them to do it on their own, and them for us to save time, yeah, because the downtime is a big problem. But for us to save the downtime, we decided to give them bikes. And no sooner there is a complaint, we just rush them to the villages. Of course, e-commerce also helps us. Like my sister was saying, capacity is a problem. If Nigeria is globally about capacity, I wonder what we in Sierra Leone
we're coming soon. We're coming to you guys.
Okay, so we have this problem. The fortunate thing was that that happened to us was my team was fortunate to get some first-class training during the winch energy time. Their winch energy technical team was based in Italy, so we have very good engineers that set up these systems on how to fix them. So they gave these guys training. So our reaction was very, very robust when it comes to downtime. Yeah. And before wind energy shut down, we were the best operator in country within Sierra Leone. We are the best operator. We are the best.
Wow.
Yeah.
Absolutely brilliant. And I think you commented on the issue of human expertise that I believe Chinwe and Ernest said. The fact that you are able to have the right guys who have acquired the skill, particularly from the initiative you spoke about before. and how that is helping to mitigate, downtimes and access to electricity in the rural community. But before we go on to the conversation, we're about to wrap up because of time. We would like to keep the time within the 1 hour frame and not. It's a very wide conversation, and we hope to continue sometime, particularly or maybe physically, not even virtually like this, so that we have enough time to discuss and have a more robust conversation. If you are just joining or you're part of the conversation, enjoying the conversation, this is Energy in Africa. This Energy in Africa webinar. Like I said, Energy in Africa, it's a digital media company that focuses on energy trend across Africa, which include renewables that we're just talking about now. It includes oil and gas. It includes EVs. It includes climate related news and corporate companies updates, all of those things. And you can actually look at see our website at the chat box section. And also, like I said, we have a sister company, which is Finance in Africa. Just a little bit of backdrop there. Energy in Africa, Finance in Africa are actually subsidiary of Business Front, a company that focuses on niche-based media across Africa. So there's going to be Energy in Africa. We have TechPoint, which is, I think, the most popular one for now. I got to know about Ernest from TechPoint. And so TechPoint is the tech company. TechPoint Africa is a tech company of Business Front. So we have, like I said, Energy in Africa, Finance in Africa for now, but we are also unraveling other niche-based media company as we go on. So just to go into the second part of this webinar, I'll bring in Emmanuel Paul, who is going to ask the remaining questions, and then we can wrap it up. Emmanuel is the managing editor of Finance in Africa. So Emmanuel, you have the floor.
Hi, thank you, Cyrus. Thank you, everyone. This has really been a really insightful section. So Chinwe, Mohamed, Akinlola, it's been really interesting. And I guess you might be wondering, okay, why am I here in this phase? But okay, before I started managing Finance in Africa, I used to be managing editor of TechPoint. So a lot of the core tech stuff behind renewable energy has really been interesting for me. And yeah, I think I was really intrigued with the conversation about the pay-as-you-go service and all of that, because those are some conversations I think I've had. But when it comes to businesses, I think businesses need to be able to track their energy usage and how they use and improve their energy efficiency. So I would like to throw this question to Mr. Akinlola. How can businesses use data analytics to track and improve renewable energy efficiency? Because I mean, with renewable energy or with solar, I think a lot of people are a lot more conscious about the energy usage of everything in whether their office space and everything. So unlike with regular grid power, you just plug anything you like. But with renewable energy, people are a little bit more conscious. But how can we use analytics to improve this and be a little bit more efficient?
Yeah, I mean, thank you, Emmanuel, for that question. I will, as you know, the solar is still growing in adoption. Chinwe was absolutely right when she said 10 years ago, I can't imagine what it was like in adoption 10 years ago. Like even 5 years ago, it was still highly skeptical. But there's a ladder, right? So there's when people say businesses, we need to understand what we mean in Nigeria. So you've got the mom and pop shops, you've got solo small enterprise, which accounts for, I think, 98% of employment in Nigeria and 49% of GDP. And then you've got the larger organizations, right? So people tend to think business is large, but I like to take the whole spectrum. Do you understand? So in terms of analytics, right, you tend to find that when it comes to decision making, most businesses look at installing solar energy as an offset for cost. It's an OPEX cost reduction. Okay. And so as I mentioned before, let's take one of the biggest businesses that we can all relate to, which is telecommunications. They have, and there are several suppliers in the value chain that provide the relevant technology to enable them to monitor usage of, monitor power as it's providing an essential backbone service. I mean, telecommunications is so essential that, look at all the discussion around the NCC, around increasing the tariff. It's because it's fundamental to our infrastructure, so to our growth and to the economy growth performance. So in that case, there are monitoring KPIs that they use to check the downtime, uptime, the optimal time of sunlight, predictability of sunlight. If you're going to have to use a generator, which, as I mentioned before, still needs to be a backup to solar, making sure that you have the right level of fuel in the supply chain. So it's all about balancing and making sure that you're getting, and that's going to be done through technology and through analytics. Also, in terms of the panel, I'm not an engineer, I'm a commercial person, but I know that knowing the strength of your panel is really, really important. And gradually over time, you find some installations in companies where they're not getting the same power that they did a few months ago. Why is that? So there's technology and analytics that can show you the, if you like, decreasing performance. Not decreasing, but if there's a drop in the performance of the panel, conversion of solar energy into electricity. So that then tells you, right, I need to call Instollar. I need them to go out and go and give the panel a review, whether it's a wipe, because sometimes it gets dusty. Sometimes the panel has been dislodged and it's not pointing in the optimal solution to receive the sun rays. And all it requires is a slight adjustment, right? So these things are really key. Now, there's another productive use case that I'll talk about in businesses, which everybody can relate to, is farming. Now, solar in farming has a huge impact. It has a huge impact in terms of water irrigation, right? And solar water pumps are now, I saw it for the first time in Togo in 2021. I was amazed. And we've now started to roll that out in Nigeria. Now, what does that do? Basically, you need to find a water table. When I say water table, there's a bit of seismic assessment that you have to perform before you can install a water pump. It's solarized, but the technology of the pump. Okay, so we're getting some interference. So the technology of the water pump enables the farmer to, if you like, manages the pumping of the water from the stream or from the borehole, and if that falls dry, it cuts off. The analytics within it will cut off, the harvesting of the water so that it doesn't damage the machine, and it will switch it back on when it's at the right, when the water table is the water level is at the right level, and that irrigates the farm. And we all understand how important that is for our economy, because if we got our agriculture spot on and we improved our food security, we could be exporting to the world, right? So, and all of this is done through analytics. You can imagine huge farms. Some organizations have several farms. I know a friend that has a humongous pineapple farm. You can't manage every single aspect of it by walking around. And that's all done by analytics with the dashboard, looking at the performance of each of the water pumps so that you can make the right interventions. So I'll stop there. I mean, I can go on for more about bifacial panels at banks, and we all know the famous Sterling Bank, which runs its whole organization, the whole HQ with solar panels. But I'm conscious of time. I've got 6 minutes, so
yeah. That's really brilliant insight into everything businesses can actually do to make this renewable energy drive a reality. So Chinwe, I'd like to ask, like, So we're in the era of like businesses trying to reduce their carbon footprint and all of that. So how can we use technology to track and reduce carbon footprint effectively, especially in this day and age? So everybody's talking about it, CO2 emissions and all of that. MTN is talking, companies like MTN and a bunch of them are talking about a green office, as it were. So how can technology help us, and how can, yeah, pretty much that's it.
Right. So with carbon footprint, that's a big subject, and I am in no way an expert in that area. In fact, we are also trying to understand the space, how we can also help help the solar companies who we work with. Today, we've signed on, I think, about 24, 25 solar companies who are using our service. And we're looking at how we can also embed that carbon calculation into what we do as well. But I mean, there are various several minimal things. One, of course, is why we're here, adopting solar to reduce our usage and reliance on fossil fuel, right? The way we travel, for example. But when you talk about how we can use data, so like I said, we are looking at how we can embed that on a solar project monitoring platform. Today, what our platform is able to do is enable solar companies to cut out their travel time, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Because typically Ernest would have paid. In fact, we're talking when we were onboarding a solar company, and they told us the story how they had an intervention in Uyo, and they sent 3 engineers from Lagos to Uyo, only to realize that it was a cable that had pulled off. Right, there was no intervention that was required. So they had, of course, caused some big carbon emission, right? Because they flew by air, they went by road, they already disturbed the environment. So already what we do already helps solar companies reduce carbon footprint, because you're reducing the travel time of your engineers, moving people from one location. Because in that instance, this example I was giving, what would have happened was we would have connected them, if they were already working with us, would have connected them to an installer based in Uyo, who would not need to travel. And then we're not only connecting, we also help them, from the comfort of their offices. So if Ernest was using our service, now he's in his beautiful hotel, wherever in the world he is, on our platform, he can monitor his project. He would know when the installer has shown up. He would see how the panel was laid. He would see, he will receive real-time reports on what's is happening. So the second level for us is to embed that carbon calculation, right? What's the saving on that project? So if you've installed 10 solar panels, for example, so it's a very big subject. Like I said, I'm an expert, but we know that within the solar space, carbon calculation, it's a big thing. And we're also, beginning to learn. But I think, yes, there's a big place for technology. So maybe if Mohamed or Ernest, has some nuggets to share, I would be willing to learn from them.
Well, let me quickly come in on that one. Yes, I mean, you're absolutely right, Chinwe, that carbon credits per se is still very nascent, especially in Africa and in the world. I mean, people can articulate it better worldwide. But the one big good thing about carbon credits is that the agenda that is being pushed now is it can be monetized, right? So if you have a positive carbon offset, it's actually financially lucrative, right?
Yeah.
So now, and there's this carbon exchange, and it is, you're right, it's a bit nebulous to me. I still don't fully get it. But I attended a recent conference by RIA, the Rural Electrification Agency of in Nigeria, who do fantastic webinars and seminars. And they had a great lady that came on. She's building a platform that's going to help demystify the whole carbon. So I'd encourage you and also you, Mohammed, to plug into that. I like what you said. My office is not in VI. It's not in Ikoyi. It is in Alausa. We are in Alausa, yes, because I want to stay close to my customer. I'm not bougie. Yes, yeah, I'm not bougie, right? So no, we go to Offa, we go to Bomosho, yeah. But actually, we definitely need to talk. I've just sent you a LinkedIn request. Please accept, like, share, and then we'll continue. Please, let me hand back to the host.
Okay.
All right, that's awesome. I'm happy to see that connection already going on.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Cyrus, don't forget to send invoice for commissions. But that's that's actually cool. So, I would like to ask one final question. Also, another interesting development in the entire space that I think we should also pay attention to, and that is regarding battery storage technologies and microgrids. I know there are a few regulations around microgrids, as it were, but yeah, what role do these technologies play in ensuring stable renewable energy supply? So it's solar. Sometimes the sun is up and bright, but sometimes it's not. So what role do you think this would play? So, Mohamed, can you help us address this question?
Yeah, thank you, Paul. The role microgrids play in enhancing energy is immense. As I told you, we are into rural energy space. The main grid will never reach such areas in the next 20, 30 years. So the only way to get to those areas is by applying microgrids or mini grids. For you in Nigeria, you are a bit big. What you call microgrids in Nigeria for us is like mini grid. Yeah, because I had this encounter sometimes last year in South Africa. I was talking about mini grids. Then interestingly, someone asked, what is the capacity? And I told him the capacity, then he was saying, no, that's a microgrid, it's not a mini grid. So with these mini grids, we can access areas that are hard to go areas. These are areas that have never seen energy before, or will never seen energy in their lifetime had it not been the coming in of these micro or mini grids. Yeah. As I was saying, these grids, you deploy them in these remote areas. The only way to monitor them is like you have a smart monitoring systems. And these smart monitoring systems will help you know where there is problem. You will predict where the problem will take place and you will be able to solve it. Had that not been the case, it will have been very, very difficult. Like for the RREP project, we installed the entire RREP was for 96 sites. Yeah. And now I understand World Bank is coming in with some projects like for another 9 sites that are more bigger than the initial ones that we did. And the EU is coming up with a 300 mini-grid sites. And this we are chasing closely because we want to play. We want to continue to play in that field. Yeah, we are not like SHS before or Akinlola. As Akinlola told you, myself, my background is business. But now I'm into the energy space, and now we all speak engineering. So getting microgrids is the way out for businesses, for villages, and even the cities. You can imagine, as I'm talking to you now, there is no energy where I'm sitting. There is no light. Yeah, I'm only using the batteries on my laptop to do this webinar. Yeah. If we can install a mini grid here I think that will help us sell will provide energy for us, and will also provide energy for the neighborhood. But again, the laws that we are using here in the cities, you are not allowed to sell to another person except to sell through the main grid, and the main grid will sell to the people. And for the case where you can provide excess energy, you can sell to the main grid, and the main grid can use that one to sell to the people. But our objective is to sell to the rural communities, and that we are doing, and we are doing it well. And I'm sure if we can improve or whatsoever that's happened before, say for some sites, we use GIS to map the sites. And for this site, you will find out that the town is like 100 village town, or 100 village town, and only 30 or 50 houses that are being electrified, and the others are not having energy. There is capacity problem. There is a problem of capacity, but this can be improved because we can scale it up to what we wanted. And there is space for that. I think we should be doing going forward. I think that's the way out. But the fact remains, with microgrids or mini grids, you can give energy to where energy is not accessible. And quite beside, it's affordable. Even though our tariffs are a bit up, but it's affordable because we can allow you to buy with the list of money that you have.
That's brilliant. That's brilliant. Manu, let me come in because of time, and we've had so much said, and so much can also be said, going forward. I really love, each take on how specific, and this just shows all our listeners that these are people who know what exactly they are talking about. These are not just someone in this side by. These are CEOs and founders, who have been in this space for decades, and they know the risks, they know the challenges, they know, whatever, what are the issues that are in this space, right? We hear Mohamed talked about how, it's what's what I'm looking for now, how it's difficult, or not difficult, or challenging it is to get energy to spaces that people who are underserved communities. And he has been in this space, like he said, for a long time, right? And even to the point that he's now the CEO of one of the biggest renewable energy company in Sierra Leone in terms of rural communities. I won't be able to take questions. I could see hands up and questions. I won't be able to take any question. Because of time, we won't try to make this 1 hour webinar. But here is my recommendation. If you want to know more about issues around renewable facilitations, service provision, and all of those things, whether in Nigeria or Sierra Leone or any part of Africa, like Ernest said that they have been in different countries in Africa. You can follow each of them online. I believe Ernest Akinlola is very active on LinkedIn. Chinwe is very active on LinkedIn. Mohamed is also very active on LinkedIn. You can just look them up and then follow them, follow their work. I can tell you, Bbox, for example, is doing amazing work. Instollar, they are doing amazing work in Nigeria, and Sierra Leone is also doing amazing work in Sierra Leone. So you can just follow them up and then reach out to them, and they can give you more details about their services. Like I said, this Energy in Africa is our second webinar for the year 2025. And if you want to know more about what's going on in our own space, because we also focus more just not only on renewables, but all kind of energy trends across Africa, just go on our website. There are so many amazing stuff there on company updates, on people, on renewable, on climate change, you name it, different angles. And just not focus on one part of Africa, all across the continent. So before we go, I would just like a final short 1 minute statement from each of our panelists as a takeaway statement from them, and then we'll wrap up. Let me also start, I started with the lady, let me also end with the lady. Chinwe, just a minute and then we can move the conversation.
Okay, one last, okay, well, what would that be? So I think there's still a lot of work that needs to be done, right? We're a continent of 600 million people living without electricity. It is mind-boggling when you think about the quality of life for those people. And we're also a continent where 40% of our youthful population are either unemployed or underemployed. Our challenges abound. But also at the same time, right? I mean, like when I go abroad and people say, oh, you're Nigerian, you guys are so tenacious, you're so resilient. I like the Nigerian spirit. I think as Nigerians and by extension as Africans, I think we're beginning to realize that no one is probably coming to save us, and we have to all, think of solutions in our own little corner to contribute. So I just want to thank, my other panelists for the work, we're all doing, our contribution to solving our problems. It's quite a huge challenge, and I think it lies on us who have, we've gotten some education and we've gotten some exposure, and would I say the ability as well, whether financial or whatever it is, to contribute to solving this problem and bringing Africa out of darkness. And literally here, we're talking about actual darkness, right? No lights and electricity challenge. So well done. And thank you, Cyrus and your team for putting this together. I think we would continue to do our own little bits to make
we will definitely continue the conversation. And I think the next one will be a physical event where we can bring other stakeholders in and have more robust conversation. Ernest, your 1 minute take, I would like to hear from you.
Yeah, I mean, so first of all, great session. I'm very happy that I took the time out to do this. It's great that I've met Mohamed and his resilience with no lights where he's from. We've all been there, by the way, Mohamed. Just because I'm in Serbia, I'm enjoying lights, no disconnectivity on my laptop. I feel confident today. So that's good. I think Chinwe hit it when she said there's a lot of work to be done. We're not even competing amongst ourselves in the solar energy industry. There's too much work to be done.
There's too much work.
Our grandchildren will be old before the work is finished. So that's, and then just the final point I want to make is this, right? I like the point that you mentioned about nobody's coming to save us. But have you thought about us saving them? Yes. And as we speak right now, there is a major project going on right now, led by the former chairman of Tesco, the biggest supermarket, one of the biggest supermarkets in the United Kingdom. They're building a solar plant in Morocco, and a pipeline is $22 billion to pipe it to provide energy supply in United Kingdom. So we need to think big, right? We can become the energy supplier of the world. We can become the food supplier of the world. Africa, Nigeria is the most populous. We're 16% of Africa. So we need to think big and not just, we're saving ourselves. We can save the world. And there's a song about that. Anyway.
Exactly. I really love that. I so love that. Like, we need to stop thinking just about, even getting out of the quagmire of electricity darkness, and also become creative and innovative enough, and hardworking enough, because it requires work. It requires a lot of effort, a lot of capital, from this part of the world. The AFDB, for example, is talking about $300 million investment in rural electricity across Africa. And these are big dreams. These are big projects that will span for decades. And these are the kind of conversations that Africa needs to be having, because we have the comparative advantage in terms of the climate and in terms of the natural resources. We have the coal, we have the gas, we have the sun, you name it, we have it. So like you said, we need to start thinking around how to harness and own those resources for not just our own benefit, but even for the global market. Mohamed, your last take on this issue. Let's hear from you.
Thank you very much, Cyrus. I appreciate you so much for contacting me and making sure that I am part of this webinar. That I really appreciate and I like. Thank you very much. I hope I will continue to join such webinars and even the live one. If you require me to travel, I will do that. Also, I like the last word of Akinlola saying that we should think big and think out of the box. Yeah, as Africans. After Winch Energy left, I was like, what should I do? And few colleagues came around. No, guys, you have the expertise. Why can't you set up this thing? So we decided to set up Sarah Power. And now we are moving. And we'll not go back. We are moving. Of course, I want to appreciate guys joining in from Sierra Leone. I can see the guy that's Usans was up. Abu Kuruma, I am Abubakar Kuruma, and I saw also Bashiru on the attendees. Then, of course, a colleague operator who has been in the field for a while, Femi Kuka, is also part of the attendees. But if you have your questions, you can forward them to me and we can discuss. Or you can forward to Cyrus, we can discuss. Thank you so much for having me and thank you for hosting this webinar.
Yeah, thank you so much. And thank you, everyone, all the panelists. We are very sorry we could not take questions. We are very sorry because of we try as much as possible to stick to time. But I feel like I said, you can always follow every one of our panelists on their social media platform and reach out to them if you are interested in B2B services, projects, rural community projects across Africa. These are the people you want to talk to. Again, this is the end of the webinar. This Energy in Africa second webinar for the year. We're going to continue this conversation. This is not the end of everything. I'm going to reach out to Ernest. We're going to continue this conversation physically. I'm going to continue this conversation with Chinwe, with Mohamed, and see how we can partner together to drive the conversation and reach those who are underserved. Thank you everyone again for joining, and thank you, Manuel. Thank you, Business Front. This is a wonderful experience.
Thank
Goodbye.
you so much.